So, have you ever stopped to think about this? How does a country with hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of different languages manage to stick together? It's a huge question, and today we're going to try and answer it by looking at the incredible story of India and the really complex dance between language, identity, and, of course, power.
Let's just start with one number, 22. Now, what is that? That's the number of officially recognized languages in the Indian Constitution. And believe me, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't even begin to cover the hundreds of other languages and dialects spoken all over the country. Right away, that number just gives you a sense of the scale of diversity we're talking about here. It's immense.
And at the core of all this is a concept called linguistic diversity. Now, this isn't just about using different words for things. It's much deeper. Every single one of these languages represents a whole world of culture, of history, of identity. And that diversity, well, it's probably India's greatest strength, but it's also, without a doubt, one of its biggest political headaches.
So if you're trying to build a nation like this, where do you even start? How do you govern a place with so much variety? Well, you create a rule book. India's founders had this monumental task of trying to build a unified country out of all this diversity, and they did it with some very specific and very clever laws and policies.
If you look at the Constitution, you can see this incredible balancing act in action. Article 343 says, okay, Hindi is the official language of the central government. But, and this is a huge but, it also says English will stick around as an associate official language. And on top of that, you have the 8th schedule, which gives a special status to those 22 major languages, making sure that they don't get pushed to the side.
But honestly, the boldest move they made was probably this, creating linguistic states. This was a game changer. After independence, India literally took out a pen and redrew its own internal map. Instead of just having states based on old administrative lines, they were reshaped around language. Where people spoke a common tongue, that became a state. Think about how massive a decision that was. And you can see how it plays out today, right? If you're in the state of Tamil Nadu, the main language you'll hear is Tamil. Go over to Maharashtra, and it's Marathi. This strategy was all about giving people a real sense of cultural ownership and political say within their own state, all while being part of the bigger country. So, to try and weave all this together, the education system came up with something called the three-language formula. The idea was pretty straightforward, but really ambitious. Basically, every student should learn 3 things. First, their own mother tongue, their regional language. Second, Hindi, so they can communicate across the country. And third, English, as a connection to the rest of the world. The goal was to create a whole generation of multilingual citizens.
Okay, so having a rule book is one thing, but how people actually feel about those rules, that is a whole other story. And this is where things get really interesting, because this is where all that careful policymaking crashes right into raw human passion. It's led to some of the fiercest debates in India's history.
Which, brings us to a question I bet a lot of people have wondered about. It seems simple enough. What is India's national language?
Well, what if I told you that's actually a trick question?
Yup, here's the big myth buster. India has no national language. None. Zero. It has official languages which are used for government work, but the idea of a single national language, that would imply one single identity for everybody, and that's something the country has very consciously steered clear of to protect all that diversity we've been talking about. The difference between official and national is absolutely crucial.
And that distinction brings us right to the heart of the conflict, which really revolves around Hindi. On one side of the argument, you have people who say, hey, a common language like Hindi could really help unite our diverse country. But on the other side, you have many states that don't speak Hindi, especially in the south, like Tamil Nadu, who are deeply afraid of what they call Hindi imposition. They see it as one culture trying to dominate all the others, and they have fought against it, sometimes violently.
So we've seen the rules, we've seen the passion. Now let's connect the dots and see how all of this gets channeled into actual political power. There's a direct line from what language you speak to demands for political control.
It always starts with language, right? The sounds and words you grow up with.
And that language becomes the bedrock of your identity. It shapes your culture, your stories, how you see the world. It becomes a part of who you are.
Now, when millions of people share that deep, personal identity, it becomes an incredibly powerful force for getting them organized, for political mobilization. It gives them a flag to rally around.
And what's the end result of all that? It leads directly to real-world political change, the creation of those linguistic states we talked about, and the constant push for more autonomy, for more control at the local level.
This chain reaction is the key to understanding how politics works in modern India. So you've got all these powerful competing forces. It seems like it should fly apart, right? So how has India managed to stay together? The secret, it seems, is in what you could call its unifying compromise. It's a non-stop, really delicate balancing act.
You know, this isn't a new realization. Way back when the Constitution was being written, one of its main architects, B.R. Ambedkar, saw this coming. He said, sure, these linguistic states are useful, they make sense, but he also warned that too much linguistic pride could easily shatter the nation. Talk about being ahead of your time.
So, let's pull it all together. Here's the final takeaway. On one side, you've got the official rules, the power sharing between the central government and the states. On the other side, you have the politics of language, this powerful emotional force that demands to be heard. The magic of Indian unity isn't about forcing everyone to be the same. It's found in the constant push and pull between these two sides. It's all about negotiation, compromise, and making room for everyone.
And that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If this difficult, messy art of compromise is the very glue that holds a nation as diverse as India together, what do you think happens to that unity when we stop listening to each other?